Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is episode 24 of Coaching Connections. On today's episode, we have Coach David Norris out of Dripping Springs and Coach Christina Phillips out of Marshall High School. Two friends of mine, outstanding coaches, great people. Coach Norris has been in the business over 30 years, coached at the college level, coached on the boys' side, coached on the girls' side, just been a real staple in the coaching community here in Texas. And he also was a mentor to Coach Phillips when she got her first head coaching job at San Marcos before moving over to Marshall High School. And so great insight on the mentor-pupil relationship, what it means to be a head coach, their journeys, and so much more positive information. I hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I did. Episode 24, Coaching Connections. Phillips, Norris, let's get after it.
What's up, man?
Coach, how we doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. You can hear me loud and clear?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Good deal.
What you been up to?
Trying to stay healthy, right? Just
I hear you.
Stay home as much as possible and stay healthy,
Yeah, same here.
Without trying to live a life of fear, right? Still try to do some things, but got to be smart. Got to be smart.
Yeah, I hear you. I have a heart condition, so I have to really kind of play it safe and make sure I'm not just, at the same time I'm not trying to just be a hermit, but I got to be careful with things, places I go and people I'm around. So
that was last year. You had surgery last year?
No, I had in January I had a little issue where I had to replace a stent that I had put in. But 10 years ago I had a heart attack. So
Gotcha.
But just, man, out of the blue, I had a little mini stroke in January. So I had to go in and get it. It was just because my stent was clogged. It had been in 10 years. So, but now I feel good. I'm actually going through some cardiac rehab right now. So they're working my tail off and everything's looking good so far.
Good. That makes me a little nervous, like heart conditions and stuff. They usually say it's hereditary or whatnot. My dad he's got a heart issue. He has a missing tricuspid valve when he was born without a valve, no flap.
Oh, wow.
And so when he was in his early 20s, he had a situation. They told him, look, you're fine now. Your body's kind of adjusted to it. Sometimes he'll get regurgitation back in the valve because it doesn't close. But 20, 30 years from now, you're probably going to need some kind of surgery. Yeah. And almost on the dot, 30 years later, he had to have open heart surgery last year, and they had to go in there and fix him up. And so they had to cut him open. So he was sore and he was hurting, and he did his rehab and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm glad it's all right. He came through it all right.
I appreciate it.
And I just recommend, like, for you getting checked, at some point, if you haven't already, just to kind of ease your own mind, because I've talked to my kids about, my older kids that I have about, if they start feeling anything or just go in and get checked, because my condition could be hereditary.
Yeah.
My mom, and she passed away with heart issues. And then I had a grandfather that did as well. But my condition is just, it could be. But so I talked to them about getting checked out and stuff. So we'll see.
Smart thing to do. And peace of mind, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
And my family's in the same boat. So my dad's father passed away from a heart condition. And then my father has a heart condition. So you gotta just be careful, be smart, and there's 5 of us kids, and no telling.
Yeah. There's 8 of us. My family's a big family, so we're all rocking and rolling, still healthy, so it's all good.
Good deal.
Knock on wood.
Christina, she hit me up like, what do I wear? What do people usually wear? I was like, you wear whatever you want to wear.
Yeah, she had hit me up saying, hey, what are you wearing? You wearing a drip shirt? I said, no, I just got a maroon shirt on. It's not a drip shirt. She's like, okay. Yeah. She's probably changed about 10 times. Hey, my recruiter was trying to get me to go back to San Diego, if things wouldn't have, set it off. But then I
In
was like,
August, right? They're going like in August or something?
well, it was, remember when we went in May
Yep.
to San Diego, that deal?
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to get me to go to that then. And I was like, nah, I can't, go back to back years. But
If next May, if they're doing it again, I am so down to go again.
yeah. I was telling myself, I'll probably go. I'm down to go. I just said, yeah, maybe next year. Let's do it every other year or something like that. Oh, Christina's calling.
Calling both on audio. You getting the same call? And go ahead and answer it. Nothing.
I don't know.
I hear on this end.
Oh wait, you know what? Let me put my headphones on so I can hear you. Okay.
So you're having a hard time logging in. So it's the information is not letting you log in.
Can you text me the meeting ID again?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Or not text me, but you can just tell me what it is. I'll type it in again.
Yeah. Let me look it up. It is.
Okay, here we go.
Good.
I don't know why I was doing that. Yeah.
You ready for the password?
Yeah. Already got it.
Oh, I bet.
There we go. Okay. Ooh.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. What's up?
What's up, Coach? Christina, usually when we have technical issues, it's with the retired guys that aren't good with the technology.
Sure. I've been because I'm actually doing summer school, and so some of the Zoom things that I've been doing with my business, and then with the summer school stuff, it's been acting crazy.
Yep.
So I just use my own tablet.
Well,
but this is cool.
I'm glad you made it. No, I'm glad you guys found some time to hang out and talk. I haven't seen y'all in a while.
Yeah.
Right.
Appreciate the invite.
No problem. No problem. Well, I mean, if you've never seen an episode, basically, the whole point of it is just to kind of shine a positive light on our profession and what we do, and I think coaches have this ability to make positive impacts in people's lives and make those connections, and as you know, especially you, Coach Norris, that those bonds last a lifetime, where your kids come back and they reach out and they still ask for advice, even into raising a family and jobs and so forth. And so it's a special thing. And I don't think people out in the general public always kind of grasp that concept. So just trying to shine a light on that. And at first I just did a couple just for fun, but it's kind of turned into a little thing. So
yeah, it's good. I've checked out a couple of them. It's been good.
And keep rocking.
I see you with the new mic too.
Yeah. It sounds a lot better. I tested it out yesterday. So, but y'all can hear me good with the mic, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure I'm using it right. Anyway, so thank you guys for taking the time again. So we got summer. It's already flying by. I know for us in our district, we're starting a little earlier than normal. So teachers go back in a few weeks, and so it's already almost over. And so what have you guys been doing since the whole lockdown started? And how has your life changed in terms of this whole COVID situation? And what are you doing to stay busy, stay active, and stay sane?
Well, I'll start it off. I know it's crazy because since March 5th, we haven't been at school for Northside. So after school was over with, I still try to reach out to my girls. I'll send them texts. We actually are going to start our virtual workouts pretty soon from July 13th to August 13th. But personally, it's just been a lot of time. I've never had a summer before. It's kind of awkward. So I've taken a lot of things for me, I've been reading more, working out more, because that COVID, those months during school, just kind of at a computer. I don't know about y'all, but online school, it's good, I'm sure, for some, but I miss walking around and being with my kids. But a lot of this COVID time has just been time with, for myself, my family, and catching up on things that I didn't have time to do during the season. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I've basically, my yard looks great outside. Spent a lot of time doing some yard work, but since March, when it first started, we were, the class that I teach, I do a graduation alternative program. So it's online anyway. So my kids that are in the GAP program didn't miss a beat. They just continued working from home. And I believe next year we'll continue that mode of being able to, where they work remotely at home. So I did that, just, grading things, online with them. But as far as the team, we had some meetings where we just, watch game film, talked about things, talk about what's going on out there, especially had the rioting and things like that going on. So, with Dripping Springs, it's not a real diverse population, but the kids there were still curious about what's going on. So I gave them my perspective and just, general perspective about things. And then we talked basketball. We did a lot with basketball, breaking down film. I'm a film junkie. So all summer long, I watch film and I take our losses. I look at our losses 3 or 4 times. We didn't have a lot this past year, but the one, we lost our last game, which was a playoff game. So we spent a lot of time looking at that, things we could do better. We did assignments, with our class. They had to do assignments online, making sure, they're keeping up the mental part of the game. And so then we got into the summer and we started doing our strength and conditioning camp. We weren't shut down until this past week. We've taken this week off, but we've been rocking and rolling and making sure we're doing the social distancing and, sanitizing and things like that. The individual skill training, we've been doing that as well.
I think that's cool too, that you talk to your girls about the stuff that's been going on, especially with the riots and all that. I know with my girls, I had guest speakers just because I want the girls to see, just like yourself, I want them to see film. I want them to still grow the game. And for my girls, I wanted them to see other women who played basketball and use basketball as a tool. So we had former UT player, West Texas A&M player, even some former Northside girls who had experienced their first year as freshman basketball players, where when they were playing in high school, they were playing the entire game. Once they got to college, they were sitting on the bench. And so I'm glad that I was able to have the girls hear those conversations with those young women, if you will. So, but yeah, that was my summer.
That's a great way to utilize the time that you have. There's not a whole lot we can do, but utilize the technology. Maybe there's a lot of times it's hard to schedule to get people to our gyms to talk face to face with our kids, but when you got a Zoom conference or something like that, they can just hop on their phone if they're able to and just and give their perspective. And so that's a really great perspective, I think, Coach. The change between college and high school, from being the stud to having to earn your stripes again all over at another level where everybody can play. And so a lot of times I think younger kids, they don't realize that, and it doesn't always click. So that's great stuff. I was going to ask this a little later, but you're talking about Coach Norris giving your perspective on the rioting and a lot of the things going on in our country in terms of race in America. But just from y'all's perspective, what is something that our country could learn from the locker room of an athletic program, right? Because a lot of locker rooms are diverse and they build these family cultures regardless of background. So what is your perspective on that?
You want to go first, Christine?
Okay. I guess I like to being a military kid and being around everyone. I bring that to my teams and everywhere I go. And so in the locker room, I guess it's just, we're different pieces and we come together and we have one common goal. And I like being able to share my experiences, being a woman of color, because out of the 3 schools that I've taught at, one being Colleen, my second one where I met Coach Norris at San Marcos, and then now here at Marshall, it's neat seeing just the different dynamics, the different backgrounds. Where I'm at Colleen Fort Hood, where I've got everyone, just because of the military. And then when I get to San Marcos, it's makeup. And then coming here to Marshall as well, it's different. And so I like being able to share those different cultures and backgrounds and then answer questions, because you got to have sometimes those uncomfortable conversations. And you have to have a safe place to do that. And so just like in the locker room, you want your girls or your athletes to feel safe to come to the coaches, to ask about anything, whether it be something that's going on in the world or something that's going on in the locker room, like maybe there's some drama, or just questions about the game, whatever the case may be. You've got to have that open, safe place where they can go.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit older than you guys. So, I can remember back in '68 when Martin Luther King was assassinated. I was like 6 years old. And I can remember, I was living in Kansas City, Missouri, all the rioting that took place then, the social unrest. And, throughout, the years up to this point, there's been riots here and there. So I kind of use my experience with what the nation has gone through as a society, talking with the kids. I've personally, it's a weird stance because my mother was one of the first, if not the first, African-American female police officers in the state of Texas. So I've done ride-alongs with her, with other officers, and so you see both perspectives. And then at the same time, being an African-American male, a black male, I've been pulled over and asked, what are you doing in this neighborhood? And it's like, if you look at my license, you'll know why I'm here. So, I share those stories with my players and my students, just what I've personally gone through, but the other perspective of what a police officer, my mother has to go through, having to deal with, being an African-American female in a predominantly white, all white, or not a very diverse police department. But she rose from dispatcher all the way to chief of police in a matter of 20 years. So, she policed with respect, and that's kind of how I've coached, with respect. And so just being in both worlds, but then understanding that the color of my skin, I know I'm get treated differently. She's had to reprimand some of her officers for treating, people of color differently, because she recognized it right off the bat. So, just sharing those things. My players know I'm real with them, even though like my team, is predominantly white, but there's no, I know that those girls can come to me and talk to me about anything. They have, we have an open door policy to where whatever's on your mind, you come talk to me. The parents, I do a coaches meeting every day, and, we talk about things that are concerning them that, you always say you can't talk about this, this, and that. But I tell them, but if it's going to keep you from, talking with Facebook or social media or in the stands, come sit in my office and talk to me, even if it's one of those things that I say you can't talk about, and we can agree to disagree. But, throughout my 30-something years of coaching, I've been an assistant principal. I've been a college coach. I've had students. I just got a letter from a young lady 2 weeks ago that I was an administrator, but she graduated 15 years ago. And she wrote me a letter thanking me. She's saying, I don't know if I've ever thanked you before, but I was lost. I was an honor student. I was an athlete. And I was on a different path, a bad path, but you helped me get back on track. And I graduated. Now I'm doing good things with my life. So, just letting them know that it's more than just basketball. There's things out there you're going to encounter that, you sometimes have to be in place of that parent sometime, because they don't have anyone to talk to. But, there's proper ways and channels to do it, but you end up in that position. So
It's powerful stuff too. I appreciate you guys' perspective. Let's get into a little bit about your childhood. Where'd you grow up? What influences did you have in your life that kind of sent you down this path of education and coaching?
You first again? So wow. Again, everything always ties back to military kid life, because it's like you move every other 3 or 4 years. And so a lot of that, and my dad and my mom have helped define who I am. Grew up, first place we moved to overseas in Germany. And so I grew up there and learned a little bit of German, which don't ask me now because I only know a couple things. But enjoyed it over there, moved back to Kansas, then went to Southern California, Northern California, and then here to Texas. And I say all that because growing up, I'm an only child. And so I did kind of everything because my parents were like, you're not going to sit in the house, go outside, go ride bikes, do something. And so I was a tomboy, always playing with, outside. I didn't come into basketball until I really say like seriously my 8th grade year, because anything that my dad did, I bumped heads with him. And so he was just like, hey, let's go play basketball. I want to show you how to do this. I'm like, oh. So I remember he'd try and, teach me how to shoot my free throw. And we just bumped heads a lot when I was little. I think because it was just, I was his only girl and very protective military man. Later in college, and like now he's just everything. Him and my mom, I mean, it's just the three of us. But started playing basketball in the 8th grade, and I honestly I still love the idea of it, but being a photographer, but I was going to be a lawyer. And then I went to wanting to be an actress, because when you're living in California, I mean, come on. But I really started to focus in on being a marine biologist, and just because I love the beach and all this other stuff. So it wasn't until my 8th grade year, everything started clicking, and I fell in love with basketball. And then I liked teaching just anything. I was that kid. So real true story, which maybe I'm kind of lame. I was that kid that found a stack of hall passes, and most kids would probably use them to, skip or whatever. I was practicing writing like I was a teacher, Miss Jamerson. That was my maiden name at the time. I mean, I went through those whole writing passes, imaginary passes, as an 8th grader, mind you. So I fell into love to teaching. Miss Peters, my 6th grade teacher, she claimed it. She's like, "You're going to be a teacher." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And so yeah, fell in love with teaching. Went to high school, played basketball. I was not the best. I'm not like Coach Norris, who's just like, I'll start. You got to see some of his pictures. But in high school, I really had to scrap to get onto varsity. I was a B team, and then I jumped to A team my freshman year, and then sophomore and junior year JV, varsity year was my senior year, and then I came to college, and I knew I wanted to coach basketball, and I knew I wanted to teach history. So I took that path in college, but I also knew I wanted to play college ball. And I spoke with the coach, and the coach told me, "I really don't see you being able to play collegiate ball." And so that was really what got me. And I was like, "Okay, I'll show you." I just wanted to be a part of that team. And I think some folks are like, "Well, why didn't you play pro?" I'm like, 1, I'm not good enough. And 2, it's not so much about playing. I think for me, it was being a part of a team and having that common goal. And it was just, it's fun. It's like family, even though there was those times that were stressful. But I feel God put me in this position for the girls that I have who aren't the superstars. So my freshman year in college, I went to SFA, and in Nacogdoches, Texas. Freshman year, I tried out. I ran a 10-minute and 52-second mile, and I was running next to Tikanisha Henry. And I'm like, okay, I'm running with someone. She's already on the team. She's got a scholarship. I should be good, right? Wrong. Coach Chadwick, he's now at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. He was just like, "Why don't you come back when you're serious about this and when you're in shape?" And he handed me a styrofoam cup. I still have that cup. I'm not a hoarder, I promise. But I wrote what he said on that, and I wrote the time. And after that day, I was just like, okay, I enjoyed my freshman year in college. But I'm like, next year I'm going to make the team. Sophomore year comes, try out. We're not taking walk-ons. So then junior year comes, try out. And that mile was what really was scaring me. And because post players had to run it in an 8:30. I'm like the smallest post player. I'm 5'11", and SFA is D1. I'm a smaller D1 at the time. But on August 28th, I swear it's God, I ran that mile in 8 minutes and 28 seconds. I cried, and it was just like, well, come to individual practices and we'll see. So we're going through everything, and then October 13th, he's like, you're a walk-on. I was so excited. That was like awesome. I didn't get nearly any playing time. I practiced. I was there always early, stayed late. And I didn't know, but I was gaining the respect of my teammates because they're like, you're doing all this. You know, I'd get a little bit of like a little meal money or whatnot, some team gear, but I wasn't playing much. I might have played maybe a couple games, like the last like few minutes. But then he left my senior year. And so Coach Leon Riley comes, and I was really, I was nervous. I was like, well, I got to do all this over again. I got to prove this to somebody else. And she calls me into her office, and she's like, well, Christina, I talked to your teammates, and they speak highly of you. And I was just like, and I'm waiting for the but. And she says that she's like, well, we're gonna keep you, and we're gonna offer you a scholarship. Straight ugly cried in that woman's office. Like, just like, I'd worked so hard, and I know it was God and my family and my friends that kept on saying, you know, you're good, you're good. They thought I was crazy because they're like, why don't you just stop? But I had nothing to lose. So, and I feel it feels great being in this position as being an assistant to a head coach, because I have those girls who, again, aren't those superstars who might have to walk on. And so I tell them to work hard so they don't have to be in that situation. But if they do, then this is what you're going to have to expect. So fast forward, first coaching job at Shoemaker High School for 8 years, and then get my first head coaching job, which was an experience. Thank you, Coach Norris, for putting me under your wing. But that was, you learn a lot your first head coaching job. Then I came to Marshall as an assistant for a few years, and now I'm head coach here at Marshall. So, yeah. Sorry if I went too long.
No, I'm hyper. I'm gonna go work out. No, try to. You got me all fired up. Coach Norris?
Oh man, coming from a family of 8, growing up in Kansas City, it was real competitive. My dad he played in the Negro Baseball League back in the day. Was a really good baseball player. So my sport was going to be baseball. I mean, I was gung-ho baseball, loved football. Basketball was just kind of, play in the backyard. We played every sport, though. My dad put a goal up, we'd play. I'd play a little bit, but, you put a baseball glove in my hand and I was in heaven. So moved to Kerrville, Texas. So I'm a Tybee Antler. Moved there when I was probably 10 years old or so, 9, 10 years old. So started playing junior high athletics. Wasn't really thinking about careers and stuff like that. Though later in high school, I was thinking I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I was telling Christina that, always thought about being a psychiatrist, but that was kind of in the back of my mind. But junior high, played football, playing Little League baseball and all that stuff. But basketball season came around, 7th grade year, tried out, made the B team. It's like, okay, cool. I made a team. Didn't play much. I had some really good basketball coaches in our middle school. A guy by the name of Stuart Calkins, who ended up, being the head girls coach at Tybee and really doing real well. He had went to state in basketball. There was a guy, Joe Price. His first coaching job was at Peterson Middle School. He went on to, go to state with Port Arthur Lincoln and become a good friend of mine coaching in the Houston area. So 2 good basketball minds to play under. The head coach at Tybee was Dan Montgomery, who well-known, won a lot of games in high school coaching. I think he went on to St. Edward's University, was a head coach there. But 7th grade year wasn't a good experience in basketball. So I was like, I'm going to let it go. Didn't play my 8th grade year. Got to 9th grade year, played football. And I was still like, baseball was my sport. Baseball, did a little pole vaulting and track, but my friends talked me into trying out for basketball my freshman year. So I was like, man, I don't know. And they said, come on, just try out. You can just, you can make the team, because we play in the park in the neighborhood all the time. So tried out for the 9th grade team, and that's when they would rank you 1 through 15. I think we had like 40-something people come out for basketball. And I'd even check the board, and they're like, Dave, you got to check the board. You made the team. I was like, quit playing. So I went and looked. I was number 15, and they ranked us. I was number 15. I was the happiest number 15. In fact, that started being my number from playing number 15. And I was proud. I talk to my players about that now. I was just happy to be on the team. And our coach, Calkins at the time, moved up to be the freshman coach. And he and Coach Price had this saying, for those who didn't play, we were just RWEs, ride, watch, and eat. So I would ride, watch, and eat, but we had a good team. So we would beat a lot of teams, pretty bad. And I'm looking at the score. I knew when it got to 20 points, it was time for me to get in there, So, that was 9th grade. I stopped playing. And that's when I started getting into basketball. The coaches there kind of made it fun. I started really, looking at how coaches operate, just how they were, just the strategy part of it, and just being a coach, the prestige of being coach so-and-so. So, and then, I had my dad, who was always kind of coaching me in baseball. But I decided not to play football the next year. I wasn't the biggest guy. So I was like, I'm going to stay with basketball, get more involved with that. And went through basketball all season. Played baseball. They didn't keep a lot. It was just a JV and varsity team. I was one of the few freshmen they kept on the JV baseball team. So I was like, okay, my goals for baseball are still there. So ended up my sophomore year, just from playing in 9th grade, going through off season, and then playing in the neighborhood, coming to Austin, playing with my sister. Had a boyfriend that went to Houston-Tillotson. So we'd go over to UT, and I'd play on the secondary court for a while. Every now and then I got out on the main court there in Gregory Gym. So, I started getting better and better. And then all of a sudden I started being able to jump and dunk a basketball when I was in 10th grade, and being like 5'10", 5'11". It was like there wasn't a three-point line. So the thing to do was dunk the basketball. So when I started doing that, that's when the game started becoming more exciting for me. Started playing, the next year, junior year, started off on JV, but moved up to varsity. And varsity year, had a really good year playing basketball and baseball. And then it came time to make a decision. My senior year, I got a new coach, Coach James Sharp, who really good, outstanding coach, polar opposite of Coach Montgomery. Coach Montgomery was real fiery, would grab you by your jersey, get out there, But Coach Sharp was more strategy, cool and calm. And I think that's kind of the path that I took with coaching. And he just kind of stuck with me, him and, this guy, Coach Damasco, Coach Calkins, and Coach Price. All of them had a big influence on me wanting to be a coach. Coach Pfeiffer from the neighborhood. He's a local guy from Kerrville. He was a middle school coach coming up. And so, just kind of fell behind those guys and decided that when I graduated from high school, didn't have very many offers in basketball. I had a couple in baseball, but I went in and tried out for the team at Shriner Junior. They're a junior college there. Tried out, and just in warm-up, I put on like a little dunk show, so I was able to get a scholarship. But playing that first year of college, I found out how much skill development I needed. I was so far behind. But I could play defense, I could jump, so that kept me on the court. And from there, I went on. I had knee surgery after my last game at JUCO. Walked on to Texas State. Didn't work out, hurt my knee again right off the bat. So I sat out for a year and a half. And then I went I was back home in Kerrville, went out to Shriner. They were like, hey, will you mind practicing with us? Practice with them. I'm like, well, look like your leg's back in shape. do you want to play this last semester? I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and play. So I played the next year, but I really was focused on being a coach at that point. Decided, you know what, I want to be a basketball coach. Baseball, I kind of let slip. Although at Texas State, they had a baseball club. They weren't a full, team yet. So they had a club team. I played a little bit of baseball club team. And then I got into coaching. My first job was at West Columbia Junior High in West Columbia, Texas. Didn't know anybody there. Me and my wife just said, you know what, let's just go. So started as a junior high coach. The next year I was moved up as the JV coach. And then after two or 3 years, I became the head coach there. And real fortunate there, working under a guy, Coach Phillips, decided to be administrator. Even though we had a good team coming back, we had a 6'10" kid, 6'6", really good point guard. He went on in administration, kind of handed me the job. So that kind of catapulted me. Had a lot of college scouts coming into the program, checking out the 6'10" kid. So I got offered to work a lot of camps, spent a lot of time at the Rice camp, working with some outstanding coaches. Willis Wilson was the head coach. He's now at A&M Corpus, but got to be more than just coach camp relationship. Got to be friends with those guys, Todd Smith, Marty, his guys at SMU, Jimmy Tubbs, Coach Casper, Danny Casper was at Baylor. He'd come through recruiting. So I got to know these guys and really, that's kind of how my coaching career started and spiraled into I became a college coach at the NAIA Division III level. Really enjoyed that, but the money just wasn't there. Came back to high school coaching. Then an administrator. So got out of administration, came back to coaching. So it's where I'm at now.
Been around a little bit. Tell me some of the, usually I guess the most natural thing to do is ask the differences, but what are some of the similarities in coaching college ball and coaching boys basketball in high school and girls basketball in high school? What are some of the things that you find that are all the same?
They're kids. I mean, they're kids and they want to learn. College kids think they know a little bit more, and you have to treat them, more like an adult. But at the same time, it's teaching basketball, and I love teaching basketball. If you can motivate them, they're motivated in different ways, but at the same time, it's still winning. It's still trying to be the best that you can be. So it's just trying to keep that same style that I've kept, just motivating strategy. I've always been a big strategist, and running sets and just being detail oriented. Just I required once I got out of college coaching, I was assistant coach at Mayer Hardin Baylor University under Richard Herbst for the men's side. And then I coached, I was assistant for the women's also. I did both. So I had both perspectives. Both teams went to the national championship, national tournament, NAIA. Went to both tournaments. I flew to one, flew to the other. The women got runner-up. Jeff Van Auken was the women's coach. And that's when I learned how to coach detail. Richard Herbst, those guys were very detail-oriented, and that elevated me as a coach, just learning that 1 year of being an assistant there. And I went to Schreiner as the head men's coach there. And teaching details, now that I went back to high school and started coaching, I was able to be more detail-oriented, and it helped, starting out as a head coach. I look back on that, I was like, man, I didn't know anything. I was just happy to be a head coach. My first year, we made the playoffs. We were district champ, made the playoffs, and I got my tail handed to me that first game because I just wasn't prepared. I was just like going, I got a 6'10" kid. I got this and that, and bingo, we got blasted. And so I promised myself that I would never, be that out coach. And it wasn't just the players were better. I got out coached, and they were ready for everything I did, more detailed. So that's when I started wanting to learn more and sitting in camps, taking notes. We do the chalk talk with all the coaches and, veterans coaches. And, I look back, I've lost to some really good coaches, and I've beat those same coaches though. So you learn from that, Mike Wacker, I played high school ball against him and end up, coaching against him, win a few, lost a few, So Ray Carroll, I remember playing high school ball against him. In fact, Ray, we hold the longest game in Texas history. We went 10 overtimes, and I won it on free throws. So every time I see Ray Carroll, it's like, hey, remember that game at Tybee? And he goes, yeah, I still remember it.
You told me about that when we were in San Diego, and I've seen Ray 100,000 times since then, and I keep forgetting to ask him about it. Well, I was going to ask you y'all's favorite basketball memories, but let's just jump into that real quick. Talk to us a little bit about that 10 overtime game.
Oh wow! It was a district game. We were playing Battle Lemon District. We were at our place, and we got to the end of the game, and it's tied up, and so both coaches had a strategy of whoever gets the tip, we're going to hold for the last shot. So there was no rule to initiate the play. So the other team would just stand back while we hold the ball. And it was 3-minute overtimes back then, I think 3 or 4 minutes. But anyway, the clock gets down, and all of a sudden you try to make a play and try to score. I think 3 out of the 10 overtimes we scored, but then the other team tied it right back, So the third overtime, we were down. It was 3 seconds left. We were down 2 points. And I remember we had to take the ball the length of the court. Coach drew up a play. My friend James Ayler inbounded the ball, and we kind of made eye contact. So I was at half court, took a few steps up, ran, sprinted, and he overthrew the ball. And I had to save it from going out of bounds in the corner, tightrope without going, and I caught it and just launched it and tied it up. We didn't have a 3-point line back then. We would have won it. So that sent into the fourth game. I remember my dad saying he had already left the game mad, thinking that we lost the game. And they went and grabbed something and came back by and saw the light still on there, and they went back in. We're in like the 8th or 9th overtime by then. But I played the whole game. I'm looking at Coach catching cramps, and every time I try to signal to him, he would look the other way. It's like, you're not coming out of this game. So played the whole game, and finally the 10th overtime, Coach Sharp was like, Davis, go win the game. So we got the tip, and I just took off for the – it caught them by surprise because they thought we were going to hold it. I just took off toward the basket, and Ray may even foul me. Somebody fouled me. So I made the 2 free throws, came back, made a steal under the end, drove, fouled again. So I made 6 free throws to win the game on that 10 overtime. But it's second to the national record, and it's still the longest game in Texas history. So that's my personal game right there.
Well, that's insane. What time did the game finish?
Oh man, it was I think after 11 o'clock or so, something like that. It was pretty late. I don't remember, but I remember I still have articles to this day where it went out on the AP wire. So I got an article from the New York Times that it was in the New York Times. Guy sent me newspaper from Minnesota. My uncle called me up on the phone that morning. It's like, did you play in a basketball game yesterday? I just heard your name on the radio. So it was, so it went out on the AP. It's something I still tell I have to show my players the article. They don't believe me. So I show them, oh, wow, you did. So it was a pretty neat game.
Not only did you play in it, you won the game in the 10th overtime.
Yeah. So I made sure to tell that part.
Coach, Christina, tell me about your favorite basketball memories that come to mind.
Wow. First, like playing or
it could be coaching or playing or whatever.
Wow. I'll go back. I'll tell a personal one. And again, this is like, I was not the all-star in high school. I don't think I've ever been that free throw person to win the game. But with you, Norris, when you mentioned the newspaper article, so it's like the newspaper article is this big. And and it's crazy because we played Dripping Springs. I was a junior, and we were at a tournament in Dripping Springs. And I'll never forget. This will always be in my mind. And I didn't feel any hurt by it or anything, but Coach Jackson, now Coach Hollywood, we were playing in this tournament and we won. And I was doing something on the court, and I always remember, Christina Jamerson, you're running slower than cold molasses. And I was just like, okay. So I picked it up, and I don't know why that has always stuck with me, because I don't say it to my girls, but sometimes it crosses my mind. But I'll never forget how I felt when we won that game. I've never won a trophy, anything. And my junior year, we're in the locker room, and we get these little medals that big, and she puts it on me. And again, I'm not a crier, but when it's moments like that, I was just like, wow, like I have this medal. And so I have it in a shadow box actually right now, with that little newspaper article. So that's like a personal high school memory. Coaching, I think for my one of the many memories was coaching my first basketball game as a head coach for the second time around. My first head coaching game, at San Marcos, we played at Canyon High School, and I was so nervous. And that those first 4 years of being a head coach were such a learning point, just a learning all the time. And when you take a step back and you're an assistant and you're looking at how things are going, and then when you get back into the head coach's seat, again, that first game that we played, the first district game we played, it was awesome. We didn't win, and at the same time, it's just, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Now I'm not just coaching because, hey, run this offense because I like it. I want to press because I like it. No, like I'm learning now, and I give a lot of credit to you, Coach Norris, because like he would sit me down when we were at San Marcos, and we'd have our chalk talk moments, and he's like, Christina, he's like, maybe think about doing it this way. And I know I was probably stubborn. I'm like, no, I want to run this mile, or I want to do this, that, and the other. And he's like, just try it. So I try it, and I'm like, wow, he was right. So I think that's a good memory. Being in Northside is a tough district as well when I was the same as at San Marcos. But just coaching that first game, the second time around, and like just being in a different mindset, a different space, that's a great moment. So yeah.
Christina, talk a little bit about how important it is to have a mentor like Coach Norris. And you can elaborate on that too. I'm sure you had mentors, Coach Norris, along the way. But how important is it for a coach to have someone to lean on and bounce ideas off of and take that constructive criticism as well?
I think it's a necessity. Like you have to, if you want to be a better coach, a better person, you need to find a mentor. And it doesn't have to be, like just for coaching. It could be for anything. But for coaching, I have like a nice little circle of people who, when I get in a bind, or even when I'm not in a bind, when I just want to like chalk talk, or just bounce things off them, it's great having that outlet, and you learn so much. I just like, you're a sponge. And, I talked to Norris, just about anything. Hey, I'm having cuts. What do you think? And I have my assistants, and I love my assistants. They're awesome. And I just like reaching out though to the more seasoned
Way to say it, the older coaches.
But no, seriously, it's just like he's been there, he's done that, and and he's worked with young men and young women, and so he's seen that. And I just think if you want to grow as a coach, find you someone who you can grow from, learn from, maybe have those vent sessions from, because it is lonely at the top. Like I finally figured that out sometimes, but it's just like when you have that family that you can go to, and be open, like don't be stubborn or hard-headed. Just stop and listen to what they have to say, because they've been there and they've done that. So
yeah, I agree. You got to have those people that you can call on and depend on, or just bounce things off of them. When I first started coaching and started working like different basketball camps, the main one that I worked was the Rice basketball camp. And there was just about all the top coaches in the Houston area worked the Rice camp. So as a young coach, I would just sit back and watch and listen, and absorb everything, study their styles. We'll get in the locker room or somewhere, we have our little late night sessions where all the coaches get together and they would do the X's and O's. And, I didn't have a lot to say. I would just sit back and just absorb it in. And, then I would pull this coach aside later and say, hey, coach, show me what you do on this offense, or what were you talking about on this defense? So I had those people that I started getting closer to, and, like Johnny Carter, that's now, one of the administrators in TABC. Just being around him and some of the other guys, top coaches in that area, a lot of the college coaches coming through there. Then I had the privilege of training Kenny the Jet Smith, when he was with the Houston Rockets. I just happened to be at a camp or asked to work his camp. And they said, hey, come on over. So just from working at camp, ended up, striking a relationship with him and then putting on the camp and then having a lot of the pro players come in. And then I saw the different perspective. I was playing in the little pro-am leagues back then. I still had a few hops in me. And so just being around both worlds of the NBA and the college, getting to talk, sit in on some of the coaches' meetings and still do that. I'm a junkie about clinics or just calling up somebody and, or putting together an offense. I'm going to be speaking on the 21st of this month in the Texas High School Coaches Association. It's the 21st at 1 p.m. Let me throw a plug in for myself. And I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk about the modern overload offense, and his offense that I ran when I was in high school. Did it when I was first coaching. It's just the overload offense, but I was able to add a little flair. I let Christina see it a little bit, and I've added a little flair to it. I've added some different sets that we finish in the overload set. So I'm excited about just sharing that. And I know my days of coaching, in high school or whatever, are coming to an end soon. But I still want to be connected. I still want to be able to say, hey, if somebody calls me up, hey, give me an offense for this, or what did you do with this? I want to be there. Now I'm taking that mentor role. And, I told Christina I'll pop in on her practices, when I retire and all that. And I still want to continue. I helped start a select program in Dripping Springs when I got there. They didn't have a program. Not too many girls were playing. So I started 2 summers ago, and now we have like over 50 kids playing from 6th grade on up. So I still want to be active in that part. So if I do decide down the road to give it up, I know I'm still going to be active in it. And I want to be that mentor like I had, for myself, for a lot of people, and it's not always about being the loudest in the room, but just taking notes of things. And, I tell young coaches all the time, my way is not always the best way. But what I did as a young coach, I picked a little bit of this from this coach, a little bit from this coach. And I think we all learn that. We put it together and say, okay, this is my style. And it may not work. You have to scrap it. Let me call up Marcus down here and say, hey, where do you, so you just get that network going of trial and error and kind of go from there.
If I could piggyback off of that, women coaches, male coaches, like, get in each other's gym, because that was something that I really appreciated when I was at San Marcos. Like, I could just go up into David's practice and just sit there. And I mean, it's fun, especially you just
get you involved to help.
Yeah, you're right. I just, like, at whatever high school that you're at, and I know this is something that I strive to do ever since, especially being at San Marcos, is, we're both basketball coaches. We're both in this together. It's like a family. I can go to his practice. He can come to mine. We can, work out things and do things together, because we're coaching athletes. Yes, one's male, one's female, and we're coaching athletes, and it's the game of basketball. So I really got a lot out of that.
That's helpful. I mean, when I first got hired at McCollum, one of my assistants, after a year or two, became the girls' head coach, and so we were constantly. He still sat right next to me in the office, so we constantly bounce ideas. Hey, come watch our athletic period. Tell me what you think, and vice versa, and shoot me some ideas. We're all resources for each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some. I know, David, you kind of brought it up earlier about that letter you got from a former student, but talk a little bit about some impactful moments in your career that helped you, I guess, realize that this is obviously more than a game.
Well, it's that getting those letters, getting those phone calls. Now that, when I first started, no one heard of social media. So, you get those random letters from people, that you just kind of forget about because you got hundreds of kids coming, and all of a sudden you get that one letter, or that one kid walks up to you in the mall or somewhere and say, hey, coach, remember me? And you're kind of like, yeah. But then they go on and start telling you how you impacted their life. And then it's like, you know what? You start realizing it's more about, it's not just about basketball and athletics, that, you're helping set foundations for these young people. The young lady that had sent the letter to me through social media, she was like, I was in a bad way. And I remember those days sitting there in my office saying, you will not graduate if you continue this path. And then I stopped being an administrator and started being like, look, what do you want to do in life? You're an honor student. You're a good athlete. You could go play college basketball if you wanted to, but what is it what are you striving for? What's out there that's pulling you away from this? Because I know these weren't your goals the past couple of years you've been in high school. And she just broke down and started telling me the truth about everything she was doing. And I was like, you know what? I'm not here to judge you, but here's your options. This is how this thing could end. And this is where you're at right now. And we've all been at those crossroads, Mm-hmm. I've been there too, where you got to make decisions with your friends. And I know exactly what they're about to do, and sometimes you kind of like, okay, I got away with this, but, is this me? Is this what I want to be about? So, kind of focus with that. And she was able to kind of turn her life around. But, just getting those letters, just hearing from people, seeing some of my former students become coaches, that's the biggest thrill. And tell you, you're the reason why I wanted to coach. And that's the biggest thing that I've gotten out of, is just seeing those young men, young women go on and be a coach or go on to do something with their lives and then give you that credit for it. It might just be a little small amount of credit, things like that, where you're not always just coach. You got to make decisions sometime for these kids that they don't even know that you're making those decisions. But you hope that down the line, it kicks in that somebody helped me. The day he graduated, his dad was so appreciative because his dad knew and hugged me and said, thank you. This is the greatest gift you could have done for me and my son, and he doesn't even know it. So, just trying to teach that extra mile of just, I'm not just a coach. I've had kids come to me and tell me, Coach, I got this problem. I got that problem. We've all fed kids. I've watched kids close in the laundry room because they didn't have a place to wash clothes or to stay and all that. Just the way we're brought up. Just helping people out, and you've helped. I go through now and I have people come up to me and say, Coach Norris, and you're like, okay, Coach Norris. Or if they say Mr. Norris, then I know it's when I was an assistant principal. So I was like, okay, I can kind of figure it out. But anyway, just, trying to be an impact in somebody's life, and you get it back. I mean, you start getting it back when you get my age.
I'm the same way too, like, especially now that I'm at the age that my athletes that I first started coaching and teaching are actually coaches now. And they have families now. And I think that's awesome to see that full circle. And a couple of those moments, like I've gotten letters and little notes, especially from the ones that I'd say, I don't want to say bumped heads with, but they didn't understand why I was making the decisions that I was making. I had a young lady that she would always say, Coach, why aren't you going to cut her, this girl, she's always, doing bad things. And I told her, I was just like, hey, not everyone has the same opportunities as she did. Her upbringing, she had lost her father. She was living with grandma, and it just wasn't the best situation. So not that I took it easy on her. However, I worked with her. And this other athlete, she just didn't understand. And it wasn't until this past year, which is her first year of coaching in high school, she came back and she's like, I get it. Even though she's teaching and coaching girls who are better off than this one young lady, she says she gets it. She understands what coaches go through, from the parents, from dealing with cuts and tryouts and stuff like that. Another really good moment that one of the kids who just now graduated this year, and she's like, Coach, I want to be a coach like you. I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, no. She's like, I didn't want to be a coach. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. And she's like, I just want to be like you. And that kind of set me back, because I'm like, someone must be like me. And she's like, I want to be able to reach kids like you reached me. And so that it's like a huge responsibility. And I'm glad that I'm able to step up to it and help young ladies, especially ladies, that, you know, I want them to know that they can do anything and be anything that they want to be, especially today. So, but those are my memories, the good things.
Beautiful stuff, powerful stuff. Before we, get towards the end and call this one a day, let me ask you a random, I guess, NBA question. Over the last, let's say 30 or 40 years, let's go 40 years, the top four most influential players of that time frame. I saw this on Twitter the other day. So I didn't make this up. I just saw it online. Influential. Don't have to be the best player. The most influential. Last 40 years. Top four.
Can I throw in some WNBA players?
You can throw in whoever you want. Yeah, whoever you want. I guess so we'll just do worldwide. Influential in the game of basketball.
So for me, and not just because I met them, and when I was at SFA, we actually played them. Hands down, Dawn Staley and Lisa Leslie. Those are the two main ones. I'll give you two, and then Coach Norris can give two. But they've helped pave the way for myself, especially, you know, Dawn Staley for coaching. Those two hands down in my book.
Great choices.
Wow. For me, I guess influential for me or the game of basketball?
The game of basketball as a whole.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff.
Dr. J, Julius Erving. I mean, he revolutionized the game and turned it into more than just a walk it up the floor, you know, type game. He, you know, brought his freelance style from the ABA to the NBA. And that was my first person that I looked up to, just watching his style. That's who I wanted to be like. You know, I worked forever to palm a basketball, you know, all that stuff, squeeze a tennis ball where I could just hold the ball and do all kind of stuff with it. But Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you know, he was another one from that era that just really was a great influence on the game, you know, the sky hook. And if you were a center, you're trying to do the sky hook. And if you're a guard or something, you're trying to, you know, cradle the ball and rock it, you know, to dunk it like Dr. J. Dunking back in, you know, into the game. Moving forward, probably Michael Jordan, you know, had the chance to play in a pickup. It was a celebrity basketball game, you know, Black History Tournament game. And just that's when he was retired, and he came back later right after that. But, you know, just kind of seeing him, and probably in the top four would be Olajuwon. Kareem, Akeem, the Dream, and, you know, running the Kenny Smith camp, he would come over and play. We'd have a big pickup game at the end, so you'd have Robert Ory, Nishaw, you know, all those guys. You know, who's the other guard that played with Kenny and Vernon Maxwell?
Yeah.
And other NBA players from around would come and play, and I really got a chance to see Olajuwon and his footwork and just seeing a big guy, you know. And he would, and it's funny, in pickup, he didn't want to play in the post. He wanted to play out in the guard, and he could handle the ball. He'd make you dizzy and all that. So, and then just watching him on film and watching what he, you know, did, it's just, those guys like that, you know, the new version, LeBron and all those guys, but I think who really set the game moving forward were guys like Dr. J, Kareem, you know, Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, you know, and you know, those would be in for it. I'd have a ton of more, like David Thompson back when you probably don't even know who David Thompson is, but he's a guy that I kind of mirrored my game because he could jump real well. He was one of the outstanding dunkers and all-stars back in the day, and Michael Jordan. So that's who I kind of feel like took the game to a new level that these young guys are taking it forward now.
Absolutely. And the game's evolving a little bit. I guess if you had to pick one, I'll give you two. Two, I guess, of the current generation that is paving the way moving forward?
KD, Kevin Durant, and LeBron. So, you know, there's a lot that are right up there with them as far as, you know, a lot of young guys that are coming in now that are just off the chain. But those two, I think, are moving it to another level. Steph is right up there, you know, as far as position-wise, guard-wise, Steph has to be, you know, up there as well. So.
I was gonna say LeBron and Steph, but I guess it's neat seeing how like where we are like in our age and whatnot and what we've seen. Like ever since 1991, I had been like the hugest, still am, the King, the Dream, you know, Olajuwon. Like I wanted to know how he could move like that, and I found out is because he played soccer, and I thought that was so cool. I was not gonna play soccer, but just seeing them and watching them, and a lot of it I would get from watching like my dad, even though I didn't want to admit it because again, we bumped heads when I was a kid. But yeah, watching the older guys playing, they set the tone, I believe. But yeah, LeBron for sure.
No, I mean, and there's no wrong answers, right? I mean, there's a ton of guys and women that have really changed the game, and I'm curious to see how that one young lady, I forgot her name, the one that was at the Kobe Bryant Memorial.
Summer.
She is a hooper.
Yeah.
She is a hooper, and you know she's destined to change and evolve the game and inspire a bunch of young players along the way. Yeah. So I'm excited for the future of the game, obviously. But anyway, we kind of got off. It just popped in my head. I want to know what you guys thought. I appreciate y'all taking some time out to talk. I don't want to keep you all day. So thank you for hanging out, talking life and hoops and everything else in between.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you for this. Anytime.
Y'all need something.
Y'all take care.
You too.